let's watch first the new epic history video, The Road to World War II, 1931 to 34. Could be interesting. I guess they have like a classic World War I series, but yeah, they never made a World War II series, so I guess they're doing like a Road to World War II and then maybe World War II. Obviously, you know, I know a lot about this, but because it's epic history, I'm sure it's gonna be like so freaking good, so I want to watch it. Actually, like the Time Ghost channels, I've been doing like some kind of road to the rise of Hitler, basically, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, I'm sure there's gonna be a lot I don't know, so let's learn. What do I know? I mean, World War One, the Wehrmacht Republic or whatever, which was the kind of like impotent democratic government of Germany. And then by the late 20s, it was really like not doing great and not very popular. And then, yeah, obviously, like the Nazi Socialist Party start to rise, and that's what I know. Let's check it out. This is not peace, it's an armistice for 20 years. Marshal Foch. Yes. Way too prophetic. Hello, Big. What's up? 31.
1931. The world's leading powers are reeling from the impact of the Great Depression.
Maybe sorry, yeah, new video.
Has collapsed by 2/3. Unemployment is soaring. Economies around the world are in turmoil. In the United States, the world's largest economy, President Herbert Hoover struggles to provide an effective response.
600% unemployment.
Great Britain, ruling the world's largest empire, is in financial and political crisis.
129%.
France, ruling the second largest empire, is slightly better
Laval.
protected, but will soon face
200%.
economic challenges of her own. The Soviet Union, the world's only major socialist state, remains an international pariah. It is therefore largely insulated from the global crisis and is about to complete Stalin's first 5-year plan.
Other than Napoleon? I mean, De Gaulle, I guess? Even though he did some fucked up stuff too, you know, with Algeria and all that, I don't know. I don't really have a name otherwise because I'm trying to think of like someone actually good, you know, that didn't do anything fucked up. I don't know. Let's say like let's say a writer like, I don't know, Alexandre Dumas maybe, the guy behind the Three Musketeers, yeah. Doesn't have to be a ruler, yeah. Joan of Arc, Jeanne d'Arc, yeah, Jeanne d'Arc, here we go. Jeanne d'Arc is good. She's pretty cool.
A program intended to rapidly
Voltaire.
boost Soviet industrial
I don't know too much about him.
agricultural output. In Asia, China escapes the worst of the Depression, but faces crises of its own. That year, devastating floods claim an estimated 2 million lives, while Chiang Kai-shek's nationalist government fights a brutal civil war against Chinese
We saw that
communist
from
rebels.
their China store videos.
In 10 years, these 5 states, the USA, Britain, France, the Soviet Union, and China, will constitute the major Allied powers in the largest conflict in human history,
Devil is cool.
World War II.
I think Lan is my favorite though from the Marshal.
However, in 1931, there is little to indicate that such a catastrophe is looming or inevitable. But that year, these same world events are shaping the paths of 3 other nations. Germany, humbled and humiliated by defeat in World War I, is now a fragile democratic republic. No nation is hit harder by the Great Depression than Germany, thanks to its reliance on US loans, which have now ended abruptly.
I mean, the US at 600% unemployment, yeah. I guess they couldn't keep doing that. A traitor had no choice. I mean, I've never looked into it that deep, but, you know, I think it's more nuanced, right? I mean, he probably felt like he had no choice, right? Like, if you try to put himself into his shoes, but again, I don't know the details, maybe it's been disproven. Like, it felt like either try to keep going and millions will die, or try to make peace, and maybe things won't be as bad, I mean, he was a veteran of World War One, right? So maybe he just didn't want it to happen again, I guess. I don't really know the details too much. Should I stay retired? Well, yeah.
Banks and businesses collapse. Unemployment leaps to 24% and will peak the following year at 40%.
That's a lot.
In July, President Hoover offers some relief. Germany's war reparations, the money she must pay to the victors of World War I,
That's
will
right,
be
yeah.
suspended. But the hardship experienced by ordinary Germans is reshaping German politics as support drifts to the far left and far right. Italy is now a one-party fascist state, ruled by dictator Benito Mussolini, who's held power since 1922.
I was, I mean, it's not funny, but I was watching Girls and Panzer, which is an anime about like girls doing tank stuff based on different country, and Italy is like, this cute girl where everybody just says Duce. But we see then when you know who she's based upon, Mussolini, and how much of a terrible guy he was, it feels weird to chant Duce, but at the same time, Duce.
Italy is also hit hard by the Depression, though massive state intervention alleviates some of the pain. And in East Asia, the Empire of Japan. Here, the impact of the Depression is not as severe, but within this mixed democracy, there are alarming signs of political extremism and militarism.
To say the very least.
In 9 years, these three states, Germany, Italy, and Japan, will form a military alliance commonly known as the Axis.
The Axis of evil.
All have
That's for
something
sure.
in common. Germany, unified in 1871.
The
Italy,
NPI? No, I
unified
didn't
in
know.
1861. Japan, an ancient state reinvented by the Meiji Restoration of 1868. In historic terms, all are young nations,
Yeah.
and all feel unjustly treated by the World War I peace settlement. In all, there are now growing demands for what older, established powers already have, and what they have been denied. Empire. It
That's
is
one way to look at it,
empire
yeah.
that is seen to confer status,
Charles
security,
Bonaparte.
and prosperity. A panacea
Interesting.
to troubles at home. A fulfillment of destiny abroad. The 1930s, a decade of economic turmoil and failing international cooperation, will offer a window of opportunity to these three powers. An opportunity to avenge past humiliations.
I always say it, but what I appreciate the animated, history channels. I love history channels that use actual footage or actual classic painting of the time and stuff like that. I don't know. I always feel like it's harder,
And seize the empires they believe are rightfully theirs. It is a path that will put Germany, Italy, and Japan on a collision course with the established great powers, with disastrous consequences for the world.
Right. To say the very least.
This video is
Hearts of
sponsored
Iron.
by Hearts of
Of
Iron
course.
4,
Of
the
course.
game that gives you the chance to lead your chosen nation through the 1930s and into the great conflict that awaits. What decisions would you make? Aggressive imperial expansion,
After the last video I tried
building
Europa
an
Universalis,
industrial
but
powerhouse,
it was way too hard for me.
developing strategic
This is
global
the same, right?
alliances. With Hearts of
Advanced
Iron
strategy
4,
is
you
not
can
for the small
take
brain,
helm
no?
of any country country and re-fight World War II your way, with control over economic planning, diplomacy, the organization of your armed forces, and of course, military strategy. Far from just simulating history, Hearts of Iron 4 lets you rewrite the script, with every decision opening up new historical paths. And Paradox, the creators of Hearts of Iron, are constantly adding new themes and features. The new expansion pack, No Compromise, No Surrender, brings even greater historical depth to the East Asian theater. It's a crucial Second World War front, with China's struggle particularly overlooked in the West, but one which we'll be covering in...
I'm glad if they keep making their grand strategy game good, because if I'm not wrong, they're the studio that just released Vampire the Masquerade 2, right? They really fucked that up. All I'm saying.
Full in our own series. If you want to try Hearts of Iron 4
What
for
a
free,
disappointment.
don't miss the free-to-play weekend on Steam from the 20th to the 24th of November. Just click the link in our video description.
Very good sponsor for something like this, makes sense. The entire world is suffering from a terrible crisis and lack of confidence. The last hope of the world are now in our hands. Nicolae Titulescu, President of the League of Nations General Assembly, 1930.
The first major international crisis of the 1930s is in Manchuria, northeastern China. Japanese nationalists see China as the natural arena for their imperial expansion.
I haven't.
And Japan has been extending its influence here over many years. There is already a large Japanese military force based in Dalian, known as the Kwantung Army. Now, nationalist officers from this army decide to force the hand of their own government. Acting on their own initiative, they blow up a section of Japanese-owned railway. A false flag operation that becomes known as the Mukden Incident. The Kwantung Army uses it as a pretext to invade Manchuria. Local Chinese troops are no match for modernized Japanese armed forces. And Chinese President Chiang Kai-shek is more focused on fighting his internal communist enemies in the south. In 3 months, the Japanese overrun most of Manchuria and turn it into their own puppet state.
I talked about it a bit recently, but I got really into classic Japanese movies, and I guess this is relevant, so I really recommend the Human Condition trilogy from the late 1950s and early 60s. It's one of the best trilogies of movies I've ever seen. It's basically like, it's about a man who, like, the actor passed away recently, Tatsuya Nakadai. He literally just passed away this week, and he's one of the greatest Japanese actors. And it's a trilogy of movies, almost 10 hours, about like someone who, you know, is a pacifist in Japan. He doesn't want to fight. So he writes about like how to improve the condition of labor camp. And rather than send him to the army, they send him to like a labor camp in Manchuria, where he has to basically like oversee Chinese prisoners of war, right? And his goal for him is to try to improve the condition, you know, to treat them more humanly, because he wants to prove that, you know, rather than like treating prisoners like shit, treating them more humanly makes them more productive. And so it's like a trilogy of movie about like, you know, the Japanese occupation of Manchuria and the madness of it all. And despite being like, you know, movies from like such a long time ago, they're absolutely incredible and unforgettable. So if you've never seen them, I recommend the Human Condition trilogy. Just incredible movies, yeah. Yeah. But they take place a bit later in like 43, 4, and 5. So a debate on whether the US was right to drop nukes on Japan. Of course, there's debate about that, yeah.
Anjogua.
It's a big deal.
Japanese people are jubilant. The country has been gripped by war fever. But Western powers are outraged.
Well, yeah.
Japan's attack is a flagrant breach of the Kellogg-Briand Pact. This treaty, just 3 years old, committed all signatories, including Japan, to giving up war as a tool of national policy. The League of Nations, the international organization that is supposed to safeguard world peace, meets urgently in Geneva. But Japan is one of the League Council's 4 permanent members.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And rather than condemn the attack,
They just say,
the
I
League
mean,
decides
it's
to
fine.
send a commission to investigate. A few weeks later, further fighting breaks out in Shanghai. But it is clear that Western powers, distracted by the economic crisis, will not go to war for the sake of China.
Yeah, it's nice. League of Nations, NATO, stuff like that. I mean, it's nice on paper, but doesn't really do much when it's time, right? I mean, obviously, there's stuff going on right now in the world, right? That feels slightly reminiscent of this, you know? I mean, it's nice to say you're condemning them and all that, but, and you know, even like economic restriction and sanction doesn't really seem to do much. Even in Japan, has still never been successfully conquered. I mean, I guess the UK too, you know? It's nice to be an island nation. It's kind of nice.
Their inaction is noted by observers across the world.
War puts the stamp of nobility on those who have the courage to meet it. What is fascism? Benito Mussolini.
(1932) begins with an Italian victory in Libya, where General Badoglio declares the end of a 9-year campaign to crush local resistance to Italian rule.
I don't know about that.
Italy's armed forces have used chemical weapons, concentration camps, and mass executions against the Libyan people. Their successful pacification allows Mussolini to plan fresh conquests as he dreams of a new Roman Empire. In Western Europe, the site of bloody trench warfare just 14 years earlier, hopes for a lasting peace are based on the 1925 Locarno Pact. This guarantees Germany's western borders and requires...
Call me stupid, but I just learned something. I didn't realize that at this point there was still East Prussia, that Germany wasn't fully united as Germany, but also like East Prussia seems to be basically in Poland. So what is East Prussia today? Is it German or is it Polish? Or is it something else? By the Danish Viking, Danelaw. I guess that's true, I'm stupid. I have watched the TV show Vikings, so I should know that. Yeah, I don't know why I thought, I feel like it was a meme that I saw somewhere where like, but it was probably like an ironic meme then, that, you know, Britain never get conquered or something. Or maybe it's like, since they were called the UK, they've never been conquered or something like that, I don't know. I must be confusing a meme.
Requires Germany and its neighbors to submit all disputes to the League of Nations.
East Prussia and Germany was taken after World War I.
There is a mood of optimism among European diplomats, known as the spirit of Locarno, a hope that war in Europe may have been consigned to the past.
You would think.
In February, a World Disarmament Conference opens in Geneva, attended by 61 states. In June, the Lausanne Conference cuts German war reparations by 90%. But it will prove a false dawn.
It's like too late, right? I mean, if there was never the reparation, maybe Germany could have done better after World War I and not fall to the extreme because the country is doing so bad, right? I don't know. It's a what if, right? East Prussia is called Russian Kaliningrad. Oh, okay. I see.
In Germany that year, federal elections are dominated by Adolf Hitler's Nazi Party. His attitude to disarmament will soon become very clear.
Oh, the communists were pretty big in Germany.
Meanwhile, in the Soviet Union, dictator Joseph Stalin continues his drive to make the state more resilient against external and internal enemies. His first 5-year plan focuses on expanding heavy industry, almost doubling the Soviet industrial workforce and dramatically increasing output of steel, iron and coal. It's impossible to be sure by how much, as official figures are constantly manipulated and inflated by communist officials.
All right.
It's clear, however, that tank and aircraft production are expanding massively. While in Ukraine, the completion of the Dnieper Dam, the largest in Europe, gives a major boost to Soviet electricity generation.
Is it still the biggest today?
But in the countryside, the policy of forcing peasants into large, state-controlled farms, collectivization, has proved disastrous.
Which is crazy to say this because, we've also watched The Rise of China by Epic History, and, 40 years later, 30 years later, Mao does the same thing. He does like the 5-year plan system, and then he also does the collectivization system. And I think he pushes it even farther, despite the fact that it's already failed in the Soviet Union, and it has like horrible consequences. Yeah. Stalin isn't Russian, he's Georgian. Fair enough. I guess it probably didn't really matter at the time because, like everybody from the Caucasus and the region is kind of like, they're all kind of seen as, not the same, but what am I trying to say? Like, it's all like brethren, you know what I mean? It's all the people of that part,
A catastrophic collapse in the harvest has resulted in famine on a terrifying scale. The total death toll over 4 years is estimated at between 6 and 9 million. Around half these deaths are in Ukraine, where the disaster will be remembered as the Holodomor. Kazakhstan is also hard hit. Soviet authorities do everything they can to cover up the horrifying truth of what's happening.
Yeah, and Mao does the same 30 years later.
In Spain, where a new republic has been proclaimed the previous year, Prime Minister Manuel Azaña enacts sweeping reforms, aiming to modernize the country and curtail the influence of the Catholic Church. Such moves are bitterly opposed by conservatives. In neighboring Portugal
Still denies
last
it.
summer, Antonio Salazar is appointed Prime Minister. He goes on to establish an authoritarian regime, Estado Novo, that he will lead until 1968. In the Middle East, the Kingdom of Iraq gains full independence from British rule and is admitted to the League of Nations. In Japan, the nationalist militarist assault on the country's democracy steps up a gear. In February, a conspiracy to wipe out the country's leading liberal figures fails. But in May, a group of young naval officers shoot dead Prime Minister Inuke Tsuyoshi. In the United States of America,
I think it's really interesting, like the difference between Japan and Germany for World War II. Like, not that it's justified what happened, right? But there's a lot of logic to, Germany, like, most of the people, their shitty leaders get them into World War One, and, it's all terrible. And then after the end of the war, for 10 years, the country is only getting worse as they have to pay the victors and all that, right? So it's understandable that people, like they just want to live and survive. So, you've got those like new extreme people telling them that, if you follow my ideas, we're going to do good again. It's understandable why they go that way. But it's not like Japan was doing that bad. I mean, he was even saying like, that the economy was kind of fine. So for Japan, it's more like, that they didn't really have like that bad of a time in World War One. And they really think that like, it's like, I guess the culture more than anything, the culture of, like being superior in terms of a country, a people, and stuff like that, that really led them into just doing it. And it's kind of interesting, like the fact that, the army on their own decide to start invading Manchuria, and then the government can't even say like, that's fucked up, we didn't tell you to do that. They basically had to go along with it because, you know, I guess the military had too much power at this point. It's just a weird kind of difference between the two countries and what led them to World War II. It's interesting.
The 1932 presidential election
Roosevelt.
is won by Franklin D. Roosevelt of the Democratic Party. To combat the effects of the Great Depression, he promises a New Deal for the American people. Only a foolish optimist can deny the dark realities of the moment. He will declare at his inauguration. This nation asks for action, and action now.
In World War I or II, I mean, two, less people died in the French army since we kind of didn't fight that long. The Hitler experiment had to be made sometime or other. We shall now see what it will bring forth. Sir Horace Rumble, the British ambassador to Germany. The Hitler experiment. What does he mean by that, an experiment?
Germany is in political deadlock. The previous year, federal elections had filled the Reichstag with Nazis,
I guess you're right, yeah, that's really
Social
bad.
Democrats and communists, all of whom detest each other. In January, to break the impasse, President Hindenburg appoints a new Chancellor of Germany, the leader of the Nazi Party, Adolf Hitler. It's predicted that more moderate and experienced politicians will be able to curb Hitler's more extreme views, of which there are many. Adolf Hitler, born in Austria, had served as a senior private in the German army in World War I. After the war, he became leader of a fringe nationalist party based in Munich, the German Workers' Party. He renames it the National Socialist German Workers' Party, Nazi Party for short.
Yeah.
Its policies combine extreme ethno-nationalism with total rejection of the Versailles peace settlement, hostility to capitalism and big business, and a rabid hatred of Jews.
I've seen so much stuff about like Hitler's hatred of the Jews, right? Like so many videos talking about it. And I never really have become sure of like if it was something he really believed in or not, because from a lot of videos I see, it's only like after World War I, when he joined some of the extremist group, that he seems to like start spouting about that, you know? Because before that, it, you know, from his writing and his stuff, it didn't really seem like he hated the Jews, right? So I'm always like never sure if it was like he actually hated them, or if it was more like, you know, just the idea of like a common enemy will make your country stronger or something. So he just decided the Jews are the enemy, basically. I've seen so many videos and I never feel like I've had a clear answer on that, basically. I mean, maybe there's no clear answer.
Who are blamed for all Germany's woes. Above all, its stab-in-the-back defeat in World War I, which is itself a nationalist myth. Many of Hitler's own deepest beliefs on Germany's need for an empire and living space at the expense of lesser races in the East are available for anyone to read in Volume 2 of his political manifesto, Mein Kampf, published in 1926.
Maybe I should read it one day.
Germans are disillusioned with centrist politicians and their failure to tackle the economic crisis. Hitler's powerful oratory and promise of radical solutions has strong appeal.
I mean, that's literally what's happening right now, right? Like, I keep up a little bit with current news, right? But, you know, in a bunch of European countries, that's what's going on right now. Some of the more extreme parties are rising because the other one are like, you know, that have been in power for a long time just don't seem to really fix the economic problem. And so it just feels like a repeat of what's happened many times before, you know? It's like, for a while it was good, but now it's been in decline for a long time. And, you know, they don't seem to manage to change anything. So like for a lot of people, when they hear like the extreme talk and view, at first it seems like extreme, but eventually it's like when nothing is changing, it doesn't seem extreme anymore. It seems like, yeah, maybe you start to think. And then that's how a lot of them rise in power, basically. Yeah. Some things never change, huh?
Many middle-class Germans see the Nazis as the best way to keep the communists out of power. Now, with Hitler in charge, events begin to move quickly. In February 1933, a Dutch communist, Marinus van der Lubbe, sets fire to the Reichstag building in Berlin.
But
He
did he
is
do
acting
it?
alone, but the Nazis accuse the German Communist Party of attempting a coup. Civil and political rights are quickly suspended by emergency decree.
All that because one
Communists are
building
jailed.
burned.
Their newspapers shut down. In March, Germany holds new elections, during which the Nazis' political rivals are harassed and terrorized by their paramilitary thugs, the SA and SS. The Nazi Party wins 44% of the vote and takes effective control of the Reichstag. At the
Yeah.
end of the month, it passes the Enabling Act. This frees Hitler from all constitutional checks and balances. He can now pass new laws without consulting the Reichstag or
So fast,
President
huh?
Hindenburg.
Like, put like this, it seems so fast from him getting like elected the first time to, you know, basically a state of emergency to basically saying like, yeah, I have full power and, you know, like no laws can hold me back. It's all seems so fast.
On the 1st of April, the Nazis organize a one-day nationwide boycott of all Jewish businesses. By the end of the summer, Nazi concentration camps have opened at Oranienburg and Dachau. And all
Fucking
political
Dachau.
parties in Germany have been banned, except the Nazi Party.
So fast. Huh?
Hitler's next target is the despised Versailles Treaty that ended World War I. Publicly, he rejects its war reparations and the so-called war guilt clause that blamed Germany for starting the war. In secret, he orders large-scale German rearmament in
If Austria
defiance
didn't
of
fall
Versailles
apart,
restrictions
would they have been
on the
blamed?
size of German armed forces.
Austria. The
The
Austrian
existence of
Empire.
an illegal German air force is already widely known, and it's growing by 60 aircraft a month. The dramatic revival of nationalism and militarism in Germany is plain for all to see. At the Geneva
No one does
Disarmament
anything.
Conference, Germany demands parity between its armed forces and those of France. When this is rejected, Germany quits the conference. The same month, Hitler withdraws Germany from the League of Nations. It is the League's second major blow of the year. In February, the League report on Japan's invasion of Manchuria had finally been presented to the General Assembly. It had called on Japan to withdraw from Manchuria. Japan responds by quitting the League of Nations.
It's so impotent looking at it like this, you know, it's just like, yeah, this awesome League of Nations to stop stuff from like this from happening. And like, you know, people just start their madness. And then when, you know, the other tell them to stop, they just quit and nothing happens. I mean, I always look at it as like, I can't fully blame most of the countries and the leaders for not doing anything to the rise of Hitler, you know? It's one of those things where like, you know, again, like most of them lived, fought, or did things in World War I, and it was only like 15 years ago, right? So you can imagine that like, you know, all of them are absolutely terrified of the idea of like starting a war again. And, you know, how do you stop Hitler at this point? Like you invade Germany and occupy it again. And by doing that, what happens if like, kind of like World War I, some other country, you know, decide to take the opportunity to also join in and get something out of it. So I kind of understand that everybody was terrified of doing anything. And that's why the League of Nations ended up so important. But looking at it like this is still kind of sad, you know? Like just, you know, don't do it. Okay, I quit. Well, okay, well, since you quit, you can do it. It's just sad.
Adopted by the Assembly.
the international institutions designed to maintain peace are flailing.
Japan subsequently withdrew from the League of Nations. That body proved itself incapable of stemming the tide of aggression, either in Europe or in Asia.
Well,
A few foreign diplomats take the time to read Hitler's political manifesto, Mein Kampf. Some
good.
dismiss it as incoherent rambling, but others feel a deep sense of alarm. In Britain, Conservative Member of Parliament Winston Churchill warns of Germany's grim dictatorship and the return of its militaristic spirit. But in the early 1930s, there is little appetite in Britain or France to confront Germany. The trauma of World War I is too fresh. The public mood is one of pacifism. In Britain, some even wonder if the Versailles Treaty had been too harsh on Germany. Perhaps some of Hitler's demands are not so unreasonable.
Well, it's too late now.
Besides which, the Great Depression has led to severe cuts in military spending, meaning neither Britain nor France is in any state to fight a European war. France is in the middle of a full-blown political and economic crisis. There have been 10 governments in the last 3 years. National income has fallen by 30%. Defense spending has fallen by 25%. But the French are working on a major military project, which they believe will ensure national security for years to come. In the US, meanwhile, there is strong support for isolationism and a desire to avoid all overseas entanglements.
Which I understand.
The US is not a member of the League of Nations, and facing 25% unemployment, Roosevelt is fully preoccupied with domestic politics.
I've just been to this place before. Germany is again the Germany of before the war, with a new fanatical look in its eye. Harold Nicholson, British diplomat. Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to put it. I mean, it's like, on one hand, for the mess of World War I understand that most countries wanted some kind of like reparation and something out of it, But at the same time, like now in retrospect, we can say, yeah, this wasn't the right way to do it, the reparation, and just leaving the country to its own. But what should have happened is that, most of the other good guys' countries, if you will, continue, maybe not occupying Germany after the war, but like trying to assist it and help in making sure that they don't again go in the route of like extremism, right? Because again, they had just lost the war, but like so much people were still probably like holding those views and all that. It should have been obvious, right? So I don't know. I mean, everything is obvious in retrospect, but at the same time, a lot of it probably wasn't possible too, because most of the countries, they were like busy dealing with the mess in their own countries. So like, they just left Germany to its own, and yeah, obviously that wasn't a good move, but could they even have really done anything? I don't know. It's an interesting question. 34.
In June, Hitler orders a ruthless purge of the Nazi Party's paramilitary wing, the SA, or Brown Shirts. Brown Shirt violence and intimidation have been a crucial part of Hitler's rise to power. But they have served their purpose and are despised by the German army, whose loyalty Hitler now values more.
Interesting.
In the so-called Night of the Long Knives,
Kristallnacht.
prominent SA leaders are rounded up and shot without trial.
Interesting, I didn't know this.
Since 1932, Austria has been a right-wing, one-party state, led by Chancellor Engelbert Dollfuss. He regards the Nazis as dangerous rivals and has banned the party in Austria. In July 1934, Austrian Nazis assassinate Dollfuss, part of an attempted coup that is to pave the way to unification with Germany, known as Anschluss. They expect support from Hitler. But Mussolini has other ideas. He regards Austria as an important buffer state between Italy and Hitler's resurgent Germany. So he sends Italian troops to the Brenner Pass on the Austrian border, threatening to intervene if Hitler attempts to annex Austria.
So I guess they're not best friends yet.
Germany's armed forces are still very weak. Hitler is forced to back down. The Nazi plot in Austria fails.
I did not know this.
In
That's
August
interesting.
1934, 86-year-old German President Hindenburg dies in office. As a war hero and statesman, he receives a lavish state funeral. Hindenburg's authority and conservatism has acted as a limited check on Hitler's actions.
Doesn't sound like it.
No longer. Hitler swiftly abolishes.
I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of fucked up, right? Hindenburg was one of the Germany's leader in World War I, right? So part of that madness. And then he actually managed to get elected as the president, was it? In the Wehrmacht Republic or whatever it's called. And then he's the one that appoints Hitler as like first chancellor. And basically, I mean, he was voted in to an extent, but man, Hindenburg is kind of a fuck up.
Is the office of president. He will now wield its powers in his new role as Führer of the German state and people. On the 20th of August, a new law requires all German military officers and civil servants to swear an oath of personal loyalty to Hitler.
Well,
That October, King Alexander of Yugoslavia makes a state visit to France. Alexander is regarded as a crucial unifying figure for the young Yugoslav state. But on his arrival in Marseille, he is assassinated by a Bulgarian nationalist.
sounds like Marseille.
French Foreign Minister Louis Barthou is also killed in the crossfire.
Never heard of this.
That autumn, Britain learns that the German army is now 300,000 strong, 3 times what is permitted under the Versailles
So
Treaty.
fast.
Germany has further plans for expansion and mechanization. Tentative British steps towards rearmament begin, with a commitment to expand the Royal Air Force by 40 squadrons in 4 years. In December, there's a further blow to attempts to limit global rearmament when Japan announces it will not renew the Washington Naval Treaty. Signed in 1922, the treaty had fixed the size of British, American, and Japanese fleets in the ratio 5-5-3.
Why did the Japanese get
This is now
less?
seen as an insult to Japan's status as a major power.
Right, because I'm confused. Weren't Japan on their side in World War I? So why were they told you have to make it smaller than ours?
One Japanese naval officer has pointed out that the treaty may have been to Japan's advantage, given the US's far greater industrial capacity. He is Rear Admiral Yamamoto, the architect of the Pearl Harbor attack. Thank you to Hearts of Iron 4
it's
for
already over.
sponsoring this video. Don't
Man, their
forget you
videos are
can
so
try
good.
out the ultimate World War II strategy game for
Probably too hard for me. I don't think I'll try it out. Good stuff. I mean, again, I knew some of this, but man, there was still like a lot of stuff that I didn't know. It is always crazy. Like every time I go back to World War II or one stuff, I feel like I've watched hundreds of hours of stuff about it. But there's always so many more little things here and there, like this assassination in Marseille of you know, two important people, one of France, one of Yugoslavia. Like, it's a small thing in the grand scheme of things, right? But man, there's always so much more details that you don't know. It's insane the amount of history that there is to all this, and just mighty interesting. Amazing video, as always, from Epic History. They really started a lot of awesome series. I mean, the rise to China, now the rise of World War II. They have like the rise of America. They're really killing it right now. I mean, I used to think that their Napoleon series was like their peak, but the quality of the stuff they're doing now is also like not only getting better, but really covering some interesting stuff. So yeah, awesome. Great video. I learned quite a bit more than I thought I would, you know. So it is worth watching. Great video. Okay.